Welcome everyone to today's webinar, Top 40 Tips to Create Certainty Amid These Uncertain Times. I'm sure your reason for being here today is the very same reason I was inspired to host this conversation today. We're enduring an extreme period of uncertainty, and it's creating stress and anxiety amongst all of us. And for those who are leading teams and leading organizations and even leading families, not only do we have to manage our own stress and anxiety that this is causing, but we have to help others manage theirs as well. So that's what today's conversation is all about. So while we're getting settled in here, I would love to learn who's on the line and just see where you're all calling in from and what cities we have represented. So if you're not familiar with the Zoom chat box, the way you can find that is you'll see the screen share that says Amy Beaulieu's screen. You press on that button. It gives you a toolbar. On the far right of the toolbar, there's 3 dots with the word More. You press that. That gives you another selection list, and the top selection is Chat. So go ahead and type in your chat box answers. Love to see where you're all coming from. I see we've got Portland, Maine. Oh, we've got Brooklyn in the house. Israel in the house, Manhattan, Texas. Wow. We are well represented from around the world and many time zones. Ah, look at this, Forest Hills, Madawaska. Wow. Got family there. Hello, family. Chicago, yes. All right. So welcome to you. Now you know how to use the chat feature. We're going to be using that as we go through today's conversation. For those of you who may not have mastered the complicated Zoom way of getting to a chat box, I appreciate your efforts, but please, no worry. Sit back, let the others do the work on answering the questions if you so choose. But enjoy the learning. You're not going to miss anything, I assure you. So I'm sure some of you are already thinking, how can we get through 40 tips in just 30 minutes? Well, we are going to get more than 40 tips in 30 minutes. That's the beauty of speaking fast and having a lot on your slides. But really, I'd like to tell you, I'm calling in today from New York City. I am the chief light bulb moment maker for my company, 3 Shoes. And I love to have the light bulb moments go off, which is my passion for life. And that's what makes me a facilitator, a learning designer, and coach with a specialty focus on developing leadership skills with people. I'm sure you're wondering where the heck the name 3 Shoes for a company came from. I will share the story. It came from having a dream, believe it or not. And in that dream, I was speaking to a skeptical man he was skeptical about understanding the benefits of receiving training or coaching. And so I explained to him the simple fact that at various stages in life, we wear 3 types of shoes. Sometimes we wear the big shoes that we have to fill. We need new knowledge, new skills. Maybe it's a promotion, maybe it's divorce, marriage, retirement. Maybe it's leading through a crisis like this. This is a time when a coach or attending a training could help. The second pair of shoes are those shoes that we wear that are way too small. We know they're cramping our feet, they're hurting, but we're so scared to step out of them, even though we've outgrown them. And the third pair of shoes, well, those are the shoes that make us feel like $1,000,000. And those are the pair I want to help you step into. So that's a little bit about my company. Let me introduce myself next. So I come to you with a wealth of information from my almost 12 plus years, well, a little more than 12 years in the field of social work. I'm a licensed clinical social work. I then went into the learning and development world where I fell in love and found my niche and got my coaching certifications. And now my mission is to share all the wisdom I've collected from these various life stories of people I've served, share that wisdom, share it in a matter of providing you simple tools so that I can empower you to believe in your worth and reach your higher potential. So hopefully that's what we achieved today, a little bit, at least one step in the right direction. So let's get into this topic of the top 40 tips to create certainty. Now, again, I'm sure some of you are going to be counting. They are all measured. You're going to get more than 40 tips. The first idea I want to share with you today is around this idea of certainty and uncertainty and what happens when this is going through our minds. So when we focus too far in the future, meaning too many hours, too many days, too many weeks away from the present moment, we end up generating stories and ideas that are not factual. It's not reality yet. And so when we focus on the future, or when we focus on the unknowns of what's going to happen next, the what ifs, in other words, the things we can't predict, this creates uncertainty. Uncertainty breeds anxiety. And the problem with anxiety at a time like this, where we're all worried about our physical well-being, our mental well-being has to be strong in order to have a strong immune system. When anxiety is kicking in for us, so are our stress hormones. And the stress hormones, cortisol, epinephrine, norepinephrine, these are the things that wreak havoc in our bodies and suppress our immune system. And so for that, we need to make sure that we're managing our stress levels, managing our anxiety. And today is all about that discussion. So the first tip is to understand, what can we do about anxiety? First of all, the cure is to get accurate information. And I stress accurate information. And then based on that information, focusing yourself on the present moment to be able to take action with that information. In other words, to take action on what's under your control and within your means, versus imagining the worst and creating more anxiety and worrying about what's not in your control. So it's all about being present. And this is the first tip of the day. I want to help you find this quick and simple trick. It's less than 30 seconds to get yourself grounded, to get yourself rebalanced, to get yourself a clear mind. And then you can make wise choices for your good health afterward. So let's walk through this one by one. So the first thing is to identify in the room that you're in 5 things that you can see. We're going to use your senses to get you grounded. The first one, again, 5 things you can see. It might be the computer you're looking at, the phone you're holding. It could be the papers on your desk. It could be the couch. It could be the dog in the bed, the child in the crib. 5 things that you can see right now. The next thing you do is you label 4 things you can feel. You can feel the weight of your necklace, the fabric of your shirt. You can feel the couch you're sitting on, or the desk chair you're sitting on. You can feel the floor supporting your feet. You identify 4 things to feel. The third, what can you hear? Are there birds chirping today? I hope so. Is there an engine running nearby? Is there a horn blowing? Is your child crying? Your dog barking? 3 things you can hear right now. 2 things you can smell. Maybe it's this morning's pot of coffee. Maybe it's, I don't know, last night's garlic. So 2 things you can smell at this moment. Breathe it in, take a whiff, see what's out there. Maybe it's time for some Febreze. And lastly, 1 thing you can taste. Maybe that's last night's garlic too. But maybe it's the sip of coffee you just had. Maybe it's your morning toothpaste. Maybe it's a sip of orange juice you've had. But this grounding technique is something to do when you're feeling that knot in your stomach, the headache, when you notice your answers to your loved ones that you're cooped up with are getting crabby. This is the time to pull this trick out and do it. And as you see, it took less than 30 seconds to get a grounding sensation, getting all of your senses involved to clear your mind of the clutter and allow yourself the space to have a clear mind so you can make good choices. And that's the deal, folks. It is all about the choices. So what I will say about choices in this decade, or I should say in this phase of life, our sources of information can be sources of stress and anxiety. Think about the news. Maybe you're a person who tries to go to sleep after watching the 10 o'clock news or the 11 o'clock news. What have you just been bombarded with? Death, crimes, coronavirus incessantly. You're hearing nothing but the corruption and the blaming and the name calling and all of that good stuff that really, again, surges the toxic stress hormones in us, and then we try to fall asleep. So what I'd recommend as your choice right now is to limit your information exposure and choose your source wisely. In other words, you wouldn't go to a pizza shop to get your oil change for your car, right? So Why would you listen to social media sources or other nervous Nellies, friends and family that are highly anxious? Why would you listen to them to find out about critical medical information? Instead, read it for yourself firsthand. What is the Center for Disease Control writing and publishing? What is the World Health Organization saying? Those are the medical experts that we should be relying upon. You can rely on your TV personalities, your political personalities, your radio, your social media avenues. You can rely on that for the social information. Things like which hospitals have test kits, which schools are closed, what's the travel ban status today. So these are the things socially to collect from the right source. And again, my advice, limit your exposure so that you can then focus your attention and your efforts and all of your actions on your well-being so that you stay healthy through this process. So we do have choices, folks, and I'm going to break them down into these three categories of refresh, revive, and renew. So the first category of listening and learning. I'm curious what you could use this time for. What skill do you want to reinvigorate in yourself? What passion needs to be reignited? What are your motivations that you might have gotten complacent with or dulled down? So this is a time where you can refresh your skills, refresh your knowledge, and get yourself in gear to maybe even advance your career. So here's a list of lots of ideas. Reading. Oh my gosh, instead of the news at night, please take 10 minutes, read a few pages. It doesn't even have to be a whole chapter. It's a no pressure zone. Reading takes your mind off the day. You could read fiction, self-improvement, nonfiction, anything that removes you from the stress of reality. It gives your brain a break and doesn't allow it to create the stress hormones. Instead, the brain will trigger the relaxation hormones. And by the way, your body cannot produce the stress hormones and the relaxation hormones at the same time. So the trick is keep the stress ones away while the relaxation hormones are growing. TED Talks, my gosh, if you have not explored TED Talks, there is a topic, any topic under the sun that you might be interested in, I guarantee you it's there. Because there's not just TED Talks, there's also TEDx Talks. So there's lots of variety. You can even select it according to not just the topic, but how long do you want to listen? Do you want a 20-minute segment down to a 10 or even less? LinkedIn Learning is another key area where you can refresh some job skills. If you have not explored LinkedIn, there's 1,001 features. This also might be time to refresh your resume and make sure your profile is looking sharp out there. Podcasts, webinars, sermons, prayers, these are all things that bring people together for positive efforts. Put yourself in those groups. Get yourself on YouTube or Pandora or iTunes, Spotify. They all have options that you can listen to and get into these group conversations. And then, PBS offers pre-recorded concerts. There's some amazing talent out there. I think just the other night it was, oh my gosh, Paul Simon in Central Park. Like, how awesome, right? Maybe there's a skill or a hobby you want to rediscover or discover for the first time. And then, of course, since there's only tripe and pickled pig's feet on the grocery store shelves these days, maybe you got to take out the old cookbook and get some new recipes and get creative with what's in your pantry already. So now that I've shared this list, I'd love to hear from you from the chat box. Go ahead and type into that chat box, what are your sources to listen and learn and refresh yourself right now? What are you listening to? What are you learning about? Or maybe what are you suspicious and curious to learn about? So go ahead and open up that chat box again. One more time in the chat box. I'd love to see you, what you're saying about your ideas for learning. Where are you learning? What are your sources? If you need that chat box, once again, you press on the Amy Beaulieu screen share. That opens up the toolbar, click on more. From the more list, you get chat, select chat, and away you go. I'm wondering if that feature's not working. I'm not getting any answers. Oh, there we go. All right. So we've got LinkedIn, finding out what the peers are saying. Yeah, exactly. So keeping up in your industry, this is a great time to do it. YouTube inspirational videos, Abraham Hicks. Oh yeah, wonderful author out there. There we go. Alexa, please play a TED Talk. There you go. Pick a listen, and there you go. Top chart music from your home, country music. Oh, from home country. Awesome. I see what you're saying. Yeah, when you're traveling, especially. I hope everybody's safe and sound at home. Podcasts. Awesome. Thank you for those shares. Audible, I see, is on the list as well. So thank you for those shares. These are great ideas for more sources. Let's take it to the next section and talk about reviving. This is where I want you to loosen up and laugh and figure out ideas of what can get you more loose, relaxed muscles, and get your belly laughs in there. Those are great tools to get those stress hormones decreased and the good feeling hormones increased, which is our goal. So again, here's a list of things that you can do. Pets are a wonderful way to get yourself some exercise. They also provide the soothing. Believe it or not, the motion of stroking your animal's fur, the feeling and sensation of the softness, that is what produces the self-soothing mechanism, which makes us want to do it more. And it's because the oxytocin hormone is kicking in. There's a number of ideas on here. In fact, there's over 20. I would encourage you to think about comedians, cartoons, joke telling, riddles. Go back to childhood, folks. That's where we loosen up again and we laugh. If you can hang out with some kids without getting their germs, I recommend that. And, you know, maybe as a family even, get some comedians that are G-rated that you can all enjoy. There's lots of YouTube videos out there to enjoy. You can get any kind of podcast with comedians. Many people are out there to keep your mood upbeat and alive. The other thing I'll say about these ideas on here, there's a lot of movement ideas. Movement is the thing that generates, movement is the activity that generates the good hormones and decreases the stress hormones. So you want a long-lasting effect, do 20 minutes of exercise, you can get hours of relaxation on the other side. The same with laughing, belly laughing, and what that produces. It actually, there is some muscle contractions going on in there. In fact, they say a few minutes of laughter a day is the same as 20 minutes on a rowing machine. I don't know about that. That'd be a lot of belly laughing, but people who know me know I'm a big time laugher, and I would say I'm getting a good workout pretty often in a day. So reviving, loosening up, and laughing. These are ideas. I'm wondering, again, if there's any other ideas, we can chat in the chat box. Go ahead and chat your ideas about what you do to loosen up and laugh. What sources of entertainment are you finding? What's your favorite exercise? What is it that you do to break the routine of sitting at your desk? Because that's the other thing that I'm noticing in the conversations that are out there right now. People are adjusting to being quarantined at home, and they are not sure how to do the work from home gig. And so it makes it very, very difficult for them to stay concentrated. I encourage you, for every hour of work that you're planning to do, take 10 minutes to do some sort of movement. So let's say you have conference calls, stand up during that, pace, keep your earbuds in and nobody can hear anything, right? Just move yourself around your home and allow yourself to be moving and stretching. You can actually stand still and stretch at your desk while you're on a conference call or between typing emails. So you can also look up something called desk yoga. There are lots of do-it-yourself videos out there to teach you how to do desk yoga and get the stretches in that you need. So I'm seeing in the chat box, yeah, YouTube yoga, there you go. Virtual happy hour with my friends. Yeah, WhatsApp and FaceTime and even Zoom like this, you can cheers a glass of wine to relax. Listening to music, awesome ideas out there. The idea of music is important because, believe it or not, when you hear just a few notes of a recognizable song, whether you like it or you don't like it, it creates a mood in you. And so if you want to change your mood fast, change the tunes. Get some music playing and you'll see that your mood changes, your mindset shifts clearly. All right, walking the dog, walks with my daughter, yeah, chasing the 3 kids around the house. That certainly is a workout. So wonderful answers. Thank you for your input on that. Let's take it to the last section, and this is about renewing, letting go and letting be. So the important thing here is being cooped up, first of all, is a hardship for many of us, especially those of us who are extremely active and are used to being on the go. Um, as you know, I'm a facilitator. I like to be out in front of crowds doing group settings, and I've been stuck at home. Nobody's letting us in the buildings anymore, so it's forcing us to go to the webinar version. But that said, my movement has decreased quite a bit in the day, so I need to let go of the stress that that causes and find ways to just be still and be renewed in this time period. That's what's going to keep my stress hormones down. So I'm going to go with the obvious, physical affection. What better way to let go, if you know what I mean? But not to get R-rated here, but physical touch actually produces a relaxation hormone called oxytocin. And once we have that physical touch, it could be literally a pat on the shoulder, it could be a pat on the head. It doesn't have to go to the, home base here, or home plate. But we're talking about getting physical affection so that you're not isolating yourself. And usually what happens when we're stressed, we disconnect from other people. And now we're also in this forced time of social distancing. But for those of you who are in the same space as your loved one, once you've cleared your head, got yourself grounded, given yourself some movement, now go ahead and have that physical affection time where you're just chilling out together. Again, it doesn't have to be all the way, but enough on that subject. You get the point. The after effect is lasting hours for your health, for your well-being. Now, some of you out there might be rolling your eyes at that idea and thinking, oh my God, no, I just want to be alone. So I encourage you to do that if that's what you need. The solo time is important how you use that. It's not about solo time to ruminate on these worries and these anxieties, but instead use that solo time to do some of that learning you talked about. Maybe it's time to dance alone in your room. Maybe it's journaling that will help you. I often tell my coaching clients to let the paper do the holding. Instead of your brain trying to hold on to all the stresses, worries, the good stuff, it's too much in your capacity. So let the paper do the holding, get that stuff out, just brainstorm it. There's no right or wrong to this. Reflections on what you have versus what you don't have. Reflect on what you're grateful for. These are wonderful ways to, again, get the relaxation hormones surging. What better time than spring to organize, purge, and create your space? This is a great time. People are in need of things. And I assure you, if you haven't used an object, an item of any sort, if it's not bringing you the love, think Marie Kondo. These are ideas that she's sharing because it works. Creating space for yourself actually creates some health. The more objects you own, the more sense of responsibility you have. It's a psychological weight that you carry. And so when you're worried about owning and ownership and material goods, you actually have an extra little bit of stress. I'll give you a perfect example. I moved to New York 8 years ago. And for my first year, I was petrified that, my car was going to be broken into, my car would be stolen, my car would be vandalized, the tires stolen off of it. I worried every day. Was I driving my car every day to equal that weight of worry in terms of benefit? No. In fact, my very first year, I drove my car 4 times to visit my family in New England. So once I realized that that was my usage, I no longer wanted a car. And I can tell you the weight of releasing that huge responsibility of worrying about parking, worry about the finances to register it and insure it and all of that stuff. And then even just driving in New York sometimes is a headache. So all of those worries went away. And let me tell you, the metro system here, the MTA, although sometimes unreliable, it still can get you miles and miles and miles away from home to get your distance. So purge, create space, and for some people, maybe that's cleaning as well. I can tell you when I was in college, my apartment was never cleaner than the week before finals and the week of my papers being due. I would be incessantly cleaning each night to make sure that I had great space to do my work. Of course, it was a procrastination technique, but it was my stress relief. And so cleaning for you may be the same help. And then my last tip of the day, is about limiting exposure to the negative sources. So we all have anxious people in our lives. Surrounding ourselves now with their input is not the time. And oftentimes anxious people um, cannot see that they're being that anxious, and they might not be able to change that habit of theirs. So in other words, the control that you have to create some certainty about what you're exposed to is to limit your time or to limit your exposure period. Some of us, though, have family obligations where we have to deal with those people. And so it might just be about, okay, I'm going to give 20 minutes today instead of the hour that I normally give. But again, pick your sources wisely of who you're spending your time with, and making sure that you're staying safe and healthy. And that means not just physically, but in your mind as well. So folks, you have now learned over 40 tips on ways to make your choices that are in your control, which is what creates security, which is what creates certainty. So now that we've said that, I would love to learn, what were your aha moments of the day? What was the thing you were surprised most to learn of? And better yet, I would love for you to write a commitment. What are you willing to go out after this 30 minutes is up? What are you going to do differently? You just invested 30 minutes in yourself. I invested 30 minutes in you. Please go out and do life a little bit differently, 30 minutes worth differently. What is it that you're going to commit to, and try for a new skill, for a new thing? Are you willing to teach somebody something you learned today? That's another way of commitment. So go ahead and type in that chat box. Again, for those of you who couldn't get the hang of it, no big deal. You're learning from everybody else's chat, and that's just fine. If you press on that bar, go to the more, click on chat, and get your answers in there. Renee is saying she loved learning that you can't create stress hormones and relaxation hormones at the same time. Yep, our bodies are miracles, but they're not that miraculous. How to quickly get grounded. You're very welcome, Diana. Yes, the grounding technique is a great one to get ourselves rebalanced and recentered. And it looks like JG is saying limit the social media and check your more reliable sources. Absolutely. I'm glad you're taking that away, because I think the bombardment of what we get. In fact, before all of this, the neuroscience that I studied said that we take in about 4 billion pieces of information a day. 4 billion inputs, if you can believe that. And our brain cannot process all of that, which is why some of it gets cloudy and jumbled up, forgotten, missed, overlooked, but it also, what stays might get confusing. And so if you're spending even more time collecting input, you're going to be bombarded by even more than the 4 billion. Scott Adams, let the paper do the holding. Glad you loved it. Good job. I commit to painting the table, something I've been wanting to do for weeks. Okay, there's your art project of the day, or your do-it-yourself project. Again, mastering these things can also bring about that sense of pride and accomplishment, which again creates the good hormones. Home improvements, go Linda, yes. Now you can do it. You don't have the excuse of, oh, I'd rather go out to happy hour. Instead, you're gonna have your glass of wine while you're doing the at-home improvements. Awesome. So no more excuses, you're all in. Love it. You guys have been a great crowd. I recognize that we are at the top of the hour. I would also just like to encourage you to connect with me however you so choose. I'm available through email, and I'm just realizing I should have put my Instagram up there as well. My bad. My Instagram is @3shoesleadership. That's the @3shoesleadership on Instagram. And that said, I thank you all for your participation today. I look forward to seeing you again with future webinars. Talk soon and stay well.